Today I'm going to be eating like best boy Tengen Uzui from Demon Slayer, one of the Hashiras, in particular the sound Hashira. For the last 6 weeks, I've been attempting to eat like every single Hashira, and the reason for that is not only to enjoy Taisho era foods and share them with you, but these meals will probably be something that Uzui would very much enjoy. This chain is very loud and it's hitting everything. But also to inspire me to get back into shape, just like Demon Slayer did back in 2019. And that's starting with a pre-workout snack. Now, miso soup has actually been around for over 1300 years with roots in China before arriving in Japan around the 7th century. What's interesting about miso soup in the context of Demon Slayer is that they actually use this soup as an electrolyte. Miso does have a ton of sodium or salt in it. So what that means is it can help replenish electrolytes even when you're sweating. It also contains some potassium, magnesium, and calcium, which are great for muscle function and hydration balance. But the best part is that fermented foods like miso are insanely good for your gut health. I think this is why miso has been around for as long as it's been around. It's incredibly cheap to manufacture and make, it tastes delicious, and it actually has very applicable real-world health benefits for if you are training heavily like Tengen or any of the Demon Slayers. In my case, when I make my miso soup, I like using white miso, but you can use a red miso if you have it. I also am adding in a bit of medium firm tofu to this just for a bit of protein bump. But the tofu itself was cheap and accessible during this time period, so it was seen very often in any dish that you might come across. The next item that I picked was the onigiri. This is also something that they had served in Demon Slayer. Uzui's three wives have put together a simple meal of onigiri and miso soup for all of the Demon Slayers during their intense training. The onigiri paired with the miso soup is basically a pre-workout bomb. You have a ton of healthy carbohydrates in the form of the rice ball, plus all of the electrolytes and some protein from the tofu and the miso soup, and you have an all-around good meal for getting your day started. It's not very high in protein if you are going for a high protein meal, but it does do the job. I like finishing my tofu with a bit of fresh green onions and serving it with ice cold green tea. It's hot outside, okay? I don't really like hot green tea. I'll have it cold though. Cold is good. You can have whatever green tea you want here, but I'm deciding to have it cold. And this is breakfast, something that Tengen may have had during his mountain training, where the three wives had prepared everything not only for him, but for the other Demon Slayers as well. I'd had a similar meal like this when I was training with all the Hashiras, but the only difference really that I had done was I had filled the onigiri with tuna mayo. The reason why I'm not filling this is because the other two meals I'm having today are very protein heavy. So while this has a little bit of protein from the tofu in the soup, I don't necessarily need a ton of protein right now. Yes, you can split it up more evenly, blah, 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 science, but I'm gonna have sushi and steak later. You do you. This was also something that I would have out in Japan pretty much every day for breakfast. Miso soup, tofu, green onions, cheers. There's a reason why this hasn't really changed in hundreds, if not thousands of years. It doesn't need to. A little bit of onigiri. The salt on there makes all the difference. I love seasoning it like that. Okay, yeah, I'm ready. Gandalf, do you wanna go do stretching training? Now today I am still taking it easy because of a shoulder injury. So instead of a full days of like workout and weightlifting and whatever, I'm gonna focus more on the stretching portion and on some more Tengen style workouts later in the day. So right now, we're gonna go get in some stretching training. Gandalf, you wanna go stretch? Come on, buddy. Let's go stretch. Let's go. Come on. You're the worst ninja cat sometimes. Uzui is not really known for his flexibility, but he has to be somewhat flexible to be this strong. But in my case, since I am recovering from that little shoulder injury, I'm going to be taking it a bit easy today, just focusing on some knee strength and some hip flexibility. If you haven't done these exercises before, touching your knees to the floor like this is super beneficial for your knees, especially as you start to get older. The other thing that I really like to do is Guillaume's horse stance. This one is super important, and you can do this at home with me. The final one that I'm doing is actually a very slow lunge. The reason why I'm doing them slowly is because I like to focus on ankle flexion. I had surgery a few years ago and my right ankle isn't as flexible as my left, so I like to focus on that. But with those few stretches out of the way, I get to go home and have more food. But before this sushi meal, I have an important announcement to make from today's sponsor, DoorDash. Thanks, Chef Paul. Today's video is sponsored by DoorDash. Are you tired of empty fridges, late night hunger, and long grocery lines? Well, get ready to upgrade your life with Dash Pass, baby. Dash Pass is the radical delivery service from DoorDash, on-demand delivery platform that brings you what you need, delivered right through the app, straight to your door. Dash Pass members save an average of around $5 per order. That means it pays for itself in an average of just 2 orders. Radical savings? Yes, please. Get more for your delivery with Dash Pass. $0 delivery fees and reduced service fees on eligible DoorDash orders. Sign up for Dash Pass today and get 30 days for free if you're a new member, bro. Use promo code CHEF50 or scan the gnarly QR code on screen. Join the savings revolution and check out Dash Pass today. Check the description for all terms and conditions. Dash Pass, it's like the future. But now, back to you, Chef Paul. Thanks, 80s Paul. Now I can finally make this amazing sushi meal that Tengen would have eaten in Demon Slayer. Now, breakfast and morning stretches are actually relatively simple, especially for Tengen. They're not especially simple for me because I just, it hurts. It all hurts all the time. This is what happens when you approach 40, I guess. And while breakfast was relatively fine and filling, I want a big meal in the middle of the day to support whatever ninja training is gonna be happening. And for that, I've picked one of Tengen's favorite things to eat, sushi. These are so fun. It just, Now, I've actually made sushi quite a few times in my life, actually working at a sushi restaurant for one of my first jobs, but I won't call myself a master sushi chef. That takes many years, and I will never say that I'm at that skill level. What's interesting about sushi, it was actually invented around the 8th century, but it was more meant as a preservation technique to keep the fish ready to eat and fresh versus an actual type of dish or food. But nigiri sushi, the type of sushi with the rice on the bottom and the fish on top, was invented in the early 1800s, and it was more meant as a street food. It was fast, convenient, and meant to be eaten with your hands, so you could just get a quick bite to eat if you were just on the street. It was super popular among workers, boatmen, and travelers who just wanted a filling little bite of food. But this is where things get pretty interesting, especially during the Taisho era where Demon Slayer takes place. Because refrigeration techniques and preservation techniques got better and better, we started to see sushi available outside of Tokyo Bay areas. This meant more types of sushi available for more types of patrons, and by more types of patrons, those patrons may have had more money. Because of this, a lot of sushi shops moved indoors versus being a street stall. Sushi chefs took more pride in their knife skills, the fish selection, and how they plated things up. I feel like a lot of this is actually reflected in the entertainment district arc where Tengen's story takes place. Dining became more social and more opulent in a lot of ways, going from the street stalls we saw earlier to the fancy sit-down sushi places we know today. How many sushi shops have you been to that charge an arm and a leg for their sushi? Yes, it's delicious, but this used to be a very humble street food snack. Now you can easily spend $100 or more on a night out having sushi. Your average roll price here in the States is going to be between $15 and $20 depending on where you live. Because of this opulence, I think this is something that Tengen would love, especially this sauce. This sauce is actually my recipe for tangy spicy mayo from Cooking with Chaos, and no, please don't ask me how long that's been in there. If you want to pick up Cooking with Chaos, I'll leave a link down below over at cookingwithchaos.gg where you can pick up the first edition right now. Sushi has been around for so long and has evolved over the years that there are so many ways of enjoying it. From the traditional sashimi and nigiri to maki rolls to deep fried rolls, I've had sushi 1,000 different ways, and each time it impresses me. One of the things I actually love having with my sushi is this. This is tamagoyaki, and this isn't even any kind of fish. This is actually a rolled sweet egg. It's something you can find at almost any sushi shop worth their grain of salt. The reason why I like this the most is because first, I love eggs and I love omelets, but it does change up the texture and flavors of your sashimi platter if you're having a bunch of raw fish. The sushi rice I made is very traditional. It's just using a little bit of sweetened vinegar to season the rice and then cool down just slightly, and I'm using that to form all of my nigiri. I'm still practicing my technique here by pressing the rice very gently, and the one thing I've learned over the years with making sushi and working with some amazing sushi chefs is that you don't want to smush the rice. You want to move the rice into place, eliminating any air in between the rice granules. This means you're not trying to mash the rice together, but instead you're forming the rice into a nice tight ball. I'm trying to do the same thing with my maki rolls, but admittedly, moving around the rice on the maki isn't as nice for me. I try to do my best here, making sure it's a nice thinner layer of rice, but that doesn't really matter too much because I'm stuffing the hell out of it with this tuna mayo salmon dish that I'm making. I love messing around with different sushi rolls like this. Yes, it's not traditional, but it doesn't mean it's not going to be good, especially if you're making it for yourself. I think that this is something that Tengen would absolutely order because he loves trying new things and new experiences. If you are making maki rolls, make sure that whatever knife you're using is dipped into a bit of water so this way it doesn't stick to the roll. I'm cutting these into smaller pieces and adding it to the platter with the rest of my sushi. Admittedly, if you were to go to a sushi restaurant today and order this platter of sashimi, nigiri, and this maki roll, you'd easily be spending around $75 to $100 $10 depending on the restaurant you went to. But don't worry, today it's not costing that much. All in all, I spent about $35 on all of this fish. It's a great deal if you make it yourself, except for this wasabi. This is very expensive. It's real horseradish, and this was $15. And I would only do this because I love tengen. As you will see later, the dinner itself is going to be very extravagant. This day for tengen was so much more expensive than any of the other Demon Slayers, probably like 3 or 4 of them combined. So if you'd like to support the channel directly, please go to cookingwithchaos.gg at the link down below or the QR code on screen. Thank you. I've only ever had fresh wasabi one other time in my life because it's so expensive, and it was at a fancy sushi place that ground their own. Now I did try to locate my fancy wasabi grater, and I ended up finding it in drawer number 4 after I don't know how long at this point. This grater is meant to grind up wasabi, ginger, and garlic. In this case, I'm grinding just a very small amount of this wasabi because again, it's so expensive. What's really nice about fresh wasabi though, is it doesn't punch you in the face like that fake stuff you get at the supermarket. This wasabi is extremely mild, and I highly recommend you try it. You should also try always closing the refrigerator door when you grab stuff out of it so your wife doesn't yell at you. The last thing I need to do is eat the rest of this mixed fish with a little bit of rice in the back of the kitchen so no one can see me like I'm working in a restaurant. This is my own kitchen. I could eat this right in front of you if I wanted to. Now, my lunch platter of sushi is finished. I have my fresh wasabi, my soy sauce, this beautiful platter of nigiri and that maki roll, as well as this plate of sashimi, a meal truly fit for tengen. This is definitely a feast fit for tengen, and this is a lot, especially in the middle of the day, but luckily half of the protein is coming without any carbs. So we have our sashimi over here, including the egg. Then I have my maki roll, which is right here, which is filled with that tuna and the salmon and the Cooking with Chaos tangy mayo. And then I have the rest of my nigiri here. This is how I like to have sushi. I don't typically order rolls very often because I just like nigiri and I like sashimi. Sometimes I do enjoy a good maki roll though. I'm very happy that breakfast wasn't very filling because this is gonna be over the top. I might need a nap.
Hi, my name is Chef DK.
Honestly, I haven't rolled sushi in a very long time, so I'm pretty stoked with how all of this came out. And I'm gonna be starting with just a bit of sashimi first. I still find it interesting that in the Taisho era is actually when sushi started to become more fancy, more mainstream because of refrigeration and specialty sushi shops, and it wasn't just like a snack place, but I've only ever known it as fancy food. Cheers to some sushi and to my boy tengen. This salmon is incredible. It's super fatty, really meaty, has an incredibly clean flavor. And I have to save some of that for Rachel because she loves salmon. Next, I'm gonna go into this tuna. And this tuna is really lean, like I mentioned, which is actually pretty good, especially for the middle of the day. Cheers. Good tuna, man. You know, one of my favorite things though, is the egg, is the tamago. A little sweet, but still really nice. Now I wanna try a piece of, oh my God, rice just flew out of my mouth. A piece of the nigiri. I'm not very skilled at flipping this over. So I'm gonna use my hands. I'm gonna give the tuna a little dip, not on the rice. That is so good. That is so good. And of course, I said tuna and then Gandalf shows up. Gandalf, I don't think I can give you raw tuna, buddy. You've had stomach problems. Normally I'd give Gandalf a little snack, but he's been having some stomach problems. So I think giving him any raw food right now is probably not ideal. I'm gonna try the tuna now with a little bit of the fresh wasabi, the $15 wasabi. It's so subtle. It doesn't punch you in the mouth like wasabi that you normally get because that wasabi is just horseradish with green food coloring. Now for a piece of salmon nigiri. Man, I love eating sushi. This is so fun. I don't know what to tell you guys. This was not overly difficult. If you have an Asian market of some kind next to you and they sell sashimi grade fish, I highly encourage you to give it a shot. Rachel's looking at me because I'm just gorging my face off of this sushi. I have to try one more. This is the maki roll. This thing is absolutely loaded, and admittedly, it is a little more wet than a maki roll should be, but I'm gonna eat it. So, you know, if I enjoy it, it's all good. I enjoyed that. I'm gonna take down the rest of my sushi, but I'm gonna be sharing it with my one wife and not 3. And then I have 2 more tasks ahead of me before I finish my full day of eating like tengen. This is week 6. We're halfway there. That's nuts. I'm going to admit I'm incredibly tired today, but I really want to earn the dinner that I'm going to have later tonight because it's something very special and it's not something I have very often. But I'm here at my local park to get in just a little bit more stretching and something that I really want to try to do that I have never done before, mostly because the Uzui blades that I have made were 3D printed, but now that I have some foam ones, I can test something out and it's probably going to look super awkward, but you know, we're in public and this is just what happens. There's no one here because it's 100 degrees Fahrenheit, so I'm all alone. It's like super quiet. It's kind of eerie. 3 years ago, I practiced 3 sectional staff training to become Toji from Jujutsu Kaisen, and I figured, why can't I try this to become Tengen from Demon Slayer? This is actually a lot harder to do than with the 3 sectional staff because it's a free-flowing chain, but I promise I am doing this for a reason because I have a show to get to. I'm pretty happy with that. That was pretty good, but now my shoulder hurts after I injured it during Sanemi's training, so that's fun. Nice, Paul. Good job. You think I would listen to my own advice, but I didn't care. I really want to practice this because I'm going to be at a very special convention later in September, and I want to be able to twirl these around as Tengen. I feel like that's super fun. I can't wait to do this at a convention. Speaking of, I guess I should tell you guys that I'm going to be at Rose City Comic-Con this year. It's going to be held here in Portland, and I actually have a booth. The booth is going to be Chef PK and Cooking with Chaos. So if you are in Portland during Rose City Comic-Con, please stop by. I would love to see you. And if you still need tickets for Rose City Comic-Con, head to the link down below and you can pick them up with my link. Rose City Comic-Con is one of my favorite conventions, and I've gone every single year since living in Portland. And this year, I think we're gonna do K-pop Demon Hunter Uzui. Yeah, that checks out. Yeah, we're gonna do that. Admittedly, this is super fun for me. It's not a real workout, but imagine being outside, swinging around foam swords in public without anybody staring at you in a weird way. It happens. Now, I still want to try to touch my toes. After warming up one more time, and this being the second workout of the day, I did get super close, and I was able to touch my toes with my back bent. So I can touch my toes, but not in the way that I want, which sounds super strange. Like, you should be able to just, you touch your toes, and that's it. That's a game over, right? But problem is that to unlock my hamstrings fully, I want to keep my back flat and be able to touch my toes. So if I curl my back, I can get there now. Now that I'm nice and warm, oh yeah, oh God, straighten the knees. Feels like everything's gonna snap. But if I flatten my back, I'm still about 5 inches, maybe 6. I'm so close. I'm so close. Now it's time for dinner. And I got something very, very special, and I can't wait to eat it in this heat because they're gonna have it outside. Maybe it's not a good idea to eat outside today. I don't know. I got outside. I touched grass, okay? Technically, I only touched grass walking over there, so it still counts. But now for the most opulent Tengen meal, wagyu bento. I have to admit, I am incredibly hot, tired, and sweaty, but it was all worth it. All of this was worth it because I get to have this. Not just bok choy. There's other stuff other than bok choy. Let me make this. Now here's something interesting you may not know. Wagyu just means beef, or in this case, Japanese cattle or Japanese cow. But more recently, it's had a distinction of being high quality, super fatty, rich beef. There are several types of Wagyu, ranging from the American style Wagyu, which is typically a crossbreed of different cows, all the way up to the amazing A5 style Wagyu from Japan. What I find fascinating is that before the Taisho era where Demon Slayer takes place, beef wasn't actually eaten that often because it was an incredibly Buddhist culture. But that all started to change during the Taisho era, where Western influences were becoming more and more common, like we've seen with previous Demon Slayer recipes. Even though Wagyu beef was more reserved for people who had a ton of money, especially someone who loved luxury like Tengen, beef was becoming more and more commonly consumed. Could you imagine a Japan without gyudon, Rengoku's favorite bento box? Not me. The side dishes for this bento were relatively simple. It was just blanched bok choy and some roasted sweet potatoes. The reason why I didn't really talk about them too much is because you can use anything local for this bento box, but the goal is to keep the ingredients very simple so they don't conflict with the flavors of the wagyu. A lot of the times with wagyu, you do want to just taste the beef. This means no additional sauces, no additional sides, nothing to really impact the flavor of the beef itself. A lot of the times it's served with just salt on the side and sometimes a house sauce if it's available. So in this case, I'm just using the fats from the wagyu to flavor everything, including this bok choy. You can buy wagyu fat by the jar, and it's about $16 to $20 depending on your location. So if I have some leftover wagyu fat from the actual steak, I'm going to absolutely use it. Now the bento box I'm using is a custom bento box I had commissioned, and I love the artwork here, but you can use any bento box you would like, or just put everything onto a plate, or my favorite, serve them all separately. So you'll have the sweet potatoes on the side on one plate, the bok choy on another plate, and the steak on its own. pan. This way you can mix and match what you want to eat. But because I really wanted to make this a bento, I'm going to layer this in a very specific way, starting with the steamed sweet potato. The steamed sweet potato is going to be the bed of this entire bento. This allows a lot of the juices to fall onto the potato, which could absorb it. After the potato, I'm adding that bok choy as a layer between the steamed potato and that bok choy. Next is to thinly slice this wagyu. You don't want them so thin that they're similar to the sushi we had, but you do want them thin enough to where you can pick it up with chopsticks out of the bento and eat it as is. If the steak is too thick, you might want to try to cut it, but that's not in the spirit of the bento. So instead, cut it thin enough to where you can eat it in one bite. And there it is, my friends, the most simple yet delicious bento. This is like $60 worth of ingredients in this bento, and it's very fitting for Uzui. He loves to be flashy, he loves to be the center of attention, but I think he has a true eye for quality. This is why he never gave up on Tanjiro, and this is why he would love a wagyu bento with very few ingredients, but executed very, very well. It was worth it. This is worth it for today. I may be exhausted, but yeah, this is why you do things. Now, I still haven't reached my goal yet, but I've explored so many really cool Taisho era dishes to celebrate Demon Slayer so far. And we're also really close to the release of the movie. So make sure you head over to cookingwithchaos.gg at the link in the description to sign up for the newsletter, so you might have a chance to win some movie tickets to go see the new Demon Slayer Infinity Castle. I'm so excited for this movie. Cheers. It's hard to describe the difference between a regular steak and A5 Wagyu. Like, it's backed by science when you say it melts in your mouth. Oh my God, oh I forgot. I don't normally drink, but there's a sake distillery here in Oregon called Sake One, maybe, in Forest Grove, Oregon. And they make one called Yomi. And I figured it was pretty fitting that we should slay this Oni sake. You get it? Because what do you want from me? I'm 40 and I make weird jokes, okay? Here's to you and to my boy, Tengen. Sake in a can, doesn't get much more opulent than that. But I still have to continue this journey, so make sure you get subscribed to see what happens next with this Hashira. Gotta deal with him now.
You need to hone all of your movements.
My name is Chef PK, and remember, keep playing with your food.